Blake, if we didn't edit this podcast, how quickly do you think we'd get canceled?
Toby, you know we record like 2 hours every episode, right?
Welcome to the Church Gear Podcast, where we pull the tech out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your host, Blake Hodges, a man who is surprised Toby hasn't noticed that less than an hour of our recordings actually come out of this to publish. And I'm here with my co-host who doesn't pay enough attention to details at all, Toby Walters.
You know I'm not a detail guy, I'm a vision guy.
Yeah, that's why you trip on things all the time.
I know. That was a dumb dad joke and you don't have kids.
We call that NVIDIA.
Ooh,
I know. And our guest is butting
breaking
in right
the
now.
fourth wall.
Oh my gosh.
We got to hold him back. No, don't say his name. Then they'll know who it is.
Are we going to edit this out? That's the whole question right now.
Maybe we edit all of them out. You never know.
Okay. So we just got back from FILO. I know it's going to be a few weeks for our listeners, but Blake, did you have a good time at FILO this year?
I had the best year we've ever had.
Best year we've ever
had.
We
partied every single night. We had the best business results of every FILO. I'm not saying those are correlated, but I am saying they're caused.
So every year, I forget, was this our fourth or our fifth year at FILO?
Fifth year. Okay.
So we did a couple extra little special things. So we hosted the mix the night before at Heritage Church, and I want to say about 60-ish people joined us for that. If you haven't been to the mix yet, we do it 3 or 4 times a year. Our next one is during Infocom, Wednesday, June 17th at the Crossing Church in Las Vegas.
Will we have the same powdered donuts at that one that we did at the one at FILO?
I don't remember.
They ran out of powdered sugar, and so the cocaine they put on those was off the chain.
Is that why I was hopping about?
Yes.
Hopping mad.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a great time. And then at FILO, I debuted, and this sort of caused a little bit of an uproar online because people didn't know if it was real or not, my church gear suit.
Well, because like all things church gear, it was not true and true at the same time. Because you would take photos of people and AI put your suit on them. Mm-hmm. And so literally the chief of staff at Church Gear was like, Toby, did you get like 3 of those made?
Yep.
That's how good it looked.
I did not get 3 of them made. So I had one made, and our amazing Sarah, our logistics wizard, she is also a crafting wizard.
Mm-hmm.
So
she put all her floors in this past weekend at her back deck.
Of course she did. She's twice the man of you and I put together, Blake.
Yep, even though she's half our size.
Yes. And so, yes, my suit was real. If anybody saw the pictures online and was curious, I was actually wearing the suit, but nobody else was. But of course, AI can make fun things happen.
Our most recent social media post is about AI.
Sweet.
The trend right now, this is going to be like 100 years old in internet years, is you do something in person that you like is a faux pas, and you're like, wow, AI caught me doing this. That's crazy. Like on Friday, if I was like, AI caught me taking early vacation, it's getting too realistic.
Yeah. That's like, all the...
brain fart.
See, I didn't update the AI plugin in my brain before that joke.
You need to get Uncle Elon to send you a new one.
But all the footage of me doing illegal things, like clearly, it's just AI, just AI.
Hey, real talk though, I have wondered, will video be used in court anymore?
I know it's going to be tricky.
I don't think you can.
Yeah.
So I think we're absolved of all of that thievery we did in Chicago.
Perfect.
And speaking of the perp that...
Why are you jumping ahead, Blake? I didn't say I was done.
Okay, well, you never do. We've gone over 200 episodes, and I just feel it when you're done.
No, I'm not done.
Okay.
Take it back.
Well, let me know when you finish.
Amplio After Party. Yep. So every year, our friends at Amplio, they'll host an after party during the first night of FILO, and they handed us mics, Blake.
They were crazy. They handed us a mic. They said we could only take 50% of them. And
so we hosted a salsa eating competition, and you called the salsa the devil's lettuce, buddy. And that's something totally different.
I mean, it seems like the devil's lettuce, though.
A little bit.
I was going to call it the devil's... No, I'm not going to say that word either. I said devil, and then I needed another word.
Yeah, perfect. And then we celebrated your birthday, and we did a little bit of a bar crawl.
We did.
Cocktail lounges. Like
Uncle Toby stayed out, or Grandpa Toby stayed out until past midnight. I was so proud of him.
I was so tired, but it was also a lot of fun. Did you have a favorite spot that night?
Honestly, the second spot, because Toby would tell him it was my birthday every time, and 2 out of 3 times we got a free drink.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was awesome.
Yeah. So the first one was the aviary, and that was expensive. Kind of a bucket list.
Toby paid $15 for a 2-inch popsicle, and it was all just like these. I mean, I'm not kidding. $30 showy cocktails. Yeah. It was fun to do once. I wouldn't do it again, but it was, bucket list.
Yeah. So if you're thinking, should I go to FILO next year, Blake? What's the right answer?
Heck yeah. You should always go to FILO. People that don't go to FILO, I'm like, what are you even doing?
Yeah.
Like Luke from House Right. He wasn't at FILO this year. And I was like, Luke, we're literally giving away a prize pack from Church Gear and House Right.
Yeah.
Where are you, brother?
Ridiculous.
I was sad to miss him.
But it's like church tech camp. So you can maximize, you go to the mix, you go to FILO, you go to the after parties, you hang out, you get up to all sorts of nonsense, Blake.
And bringing in the chief of nonsense is what he would like to be called as an old guy, but I know that he's truly the front of house engineer to past presidents such as James Buchanan and James K. Polk. James Hurley, welcome to the podcast.
That dates me about right.
Fun fact, I didn't realize that all 3 of those names were James until as I said it. I wrote that down. I think that was Inception myself. Welcome to the Church Gear podcast presented by House Right.
Most people don't know that I was the advisor to King James.
The King James that wrote the Bible?
Yes,
wow.
Yes, that one.
Yeah. Do you remember, do you mean the old King James or LeBron James, who goes by King James as well?
I didn't have the honor, the old one.
Okay. Perfect. Well, James, I feel like anybody of our listening audience that knows you is kind of licking their lips right now and thinking, oh, baby, what kind of nonsense are we going to get up to? But before we get there, give us a little brief overview of your background in production and church world and all that.
It's a long one, but I'll condense it. Started in church when I was real young, was running 2,000 member services at 16, 13, 14, somewhere there. Moved out to Australia when I was in college, worked with the Hillsong crew, did a lot of the Hillsong albums, did broadcast, front aisles, did some worship, all the things. Started our New York and LA campuses, and about 5 years into that, went to another church in Southern California, did that till I left and went into the marketplaces, as you'd call it, as a design engineer and a commissioning engineer. Then COVID hit. Then I went to work for NASA. Now I'm out freelance doing all the broadcasty recording things all over the place.
Did you just yada yada working for NASA? I don't. Wait, tell me the NASA. Had you worked for NASA when you came on the first time?
I think I did.
If you haven't listened to James' first episode, that's a fun bonus for you after this. That's in the feed. But what did you do for NASA?
So there's a group that works contracts for the government that designs all their telecom systems, their video conferencing systems, as well as a lot of their control room AV feeds and things like that. And I worked for that group when it was with SAIC. It's now with another company, and it was a lot of fun. The designs were dated, in that they had been around for 20 some odd years, and they were constantly being updated with new tech. And I was doing a lot of that. And I got to be a part of the team that was trying to transition to QSYS from Extron, which was pretty cool. And then contracts changed. And unfortunately, I don't think they ever did get to go with QSYS because I left before they kind of decided what their next catalog was going to be. But it was a lot of fun.
Did you have a crazy unlimited budget?
This is the crazy thing. I mean, it was, what do they call it? They call it fixed or cost plus or something like that. So NASA knew what the cost for each system was. And then they had a budget to work within for modifications and additions to the systems. So if they wanted a particular room to have a record and playback option, or just, or whatever, manipulate different number of TVs, things like that, that was per group within NASA. So NASA's got a lot of different working groups, and they get to design or pick their own kind of rooms and what they need in each room, which is kind of cool. It was a whole new world for me, coming from let's do a church, and church has got big kids, adults, youth, little kids, cafe, foyer, they're pretty much the same kind of cookie cutter. This was, it's cookie cutter, but this group has very particular needs to work with very particular types of, groups and teams. And we'd had to manipulate the systems per what they wanted. And oftentimes that was not what I thought made sense, but that's okay. That teaches a lesson for all the designers out there. what is it? Starkey likes to say, being brand agnostic, like get out of your comfort area and listen to what the client is actually looking to achieve and find the best fit for that. So that was cool for me.
Blake, listening to his background, all his successes, his experience, the projects he's worked on, reminds me a lot of you, just the exact opposite.
Toby, I had an incredible poop yesterday.
Yep.
And I think that is just as good as that resume.
Just because you're on the subject now, I've been like pooping like a champion the last week or two. I don't know what it is. Maybe there's something in the water.
Your body's back from FILO and it's like, oh, you're not feeding me garbage and alcohol.
Even at
this
FILO,
is great.
I was doing pretty good.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
I'm very excited about this.
There you go.
All right. Speaking of poop, James, not James yourself, but the topic. We're going to talk about live stream mixing today, and among a couple other things. And if anybody's been paying attention on social media, there was a bit of a dookie storm that dropped about this very subject, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But James, I just want to talk about live stream mixing, different than in the room live mixing. And so talk to us about this sort of new discipline when it comes to the history of church production and what considerations should be taken. Should every church be live stream mixing? What are some of those questions churches should ask before they go down this road?
I think a big thing is going to be what's the purpose of your online experience, right? If you're doing it for the handful of members that would normally come to your church but happen to be out sick, for me that's an easy no. Let's get your front of house feed cleaned up a little and push that out. If it is something you do in hopes to grow more, preferably regional members to know about your church or to hit it online on a Sunday morning and not know about you before, I would still probably bend in the let's clean up your front of house mix. Maybe let's look at groups, mastering chain, things like that. Because you're at that point, you're seeing it as an outreach. And, I would look at your numbers too and say, are you seeing growth in your numbers? So you went from 5 to 20 to 35 consistent viewers. Hey, there might be something there. Let's look at what our experience is. Are they dropping off real quick at worship? Are they only coming in for the speaking, things like that? So a little bit of an evaluation. And then there's churches that are on the larger side that see their online as a campus. They staff it maybe with a pastor, or at minimum hosts to talk to their online audience, things like that. At that point, it's gonna come down to a conversation of what's your value proposition there? Is it we have good enough desk mixes, we know that we can make this work, and we don't have complicated transitions in and out of the room. So maybe we can take a desk mix, or we really care about the sonics and the delivery at all entries and exits of our church, be it digital or physical. So yes, we want to invest in that, and we want to put a competent person or a competent team over that to steward that and make it something that is very welcoming and presents what we as a church want to present. Now, I caveat that and I say everything we do as a church should be to do as the church, right? So we want the church to be beautiful, be excellent. That should be our heart posture when we try to do things really well, in my opinion. Whenever you're getting into it because you want to be as good as X or Y church or band or whatever, for me, that doesn't carry a lot. I mean, it might for you, but I want to see churches that are a part of the body, the church global, presenting her well so that when people encounter her, they're invited to get to know her and get to know the gospel and things like that. So for me, I'm okay with wanting it to be amazing and wanting to invest in a console or, a myriad of remote solutions that are available now, including the new Blackmagic stuff or the, you're going to have to remind me the name.
Fairlight.
Yeah, the Fairlight thing, which is opening up a whole nother realm of possibilities, which is, in my opinion, fantastic for churches. So it really just depends on kind of on the size, but also kind of on what is the church's vision? What do we see our online as? Is it just a resource for our church, or is it to be a doorway for people who would not get here or could not or would not walk into a church to begin with? It's a place where a lot of people go because they don't feel comfortable walking into a church with people because of whatever they're carrying or whatever the stigma is. So yeah, absolutely. Make it amazing. Make it as good as you would want your in-room experience to be. Yeah, that's my take on it. It's probably a little bit of a classical take, but there's enough good systems out now, good engineers, good, tuning or system engineers that are fixing rooms to the point where, yeah, a lot of these front of house mixes are starting to, I would say, be good enough, right? Mm-hmm. And then waves and other things have made it much easier to polish those things. Technology is moving fast, man. It's pretty cool.
So let's talk about maybe a couple slightly different
parse it out.
Yeah, viewpoints. So I go to Church of the City. It's a little unfair. It's one of the probably top 100 churches in America as far as attendance. Patrick Mayberry and John Reddick, like they have over 20,000 people on Easter. I'm going
to fact check this.
Well, it depends like if they report to, but if they have over 20,000 people on Easter across their campuses, that's one of the largest churches in America. But, they put out an amazing live stream. They have an amazing band, some of the best musicians on the planet. They probably have a couple thousand people tuning in. And then other churches that are of the 99% of the rest of churches are looking at that and thinking, oh, well, they're doing it. I got to do it now. And I'm like, bro, you don't have a great band. You don't have talented musicians. Do you think if they put out even just a good live stream mix that they're representing themselves well and people are going to start coming because they see this 200 person church with their volunteer band doing, not great renditions of these songs and that's what they're putting out online? Do you think that's helping them or hurting them?
I actually think you raise a really good point because we do have the ability to polish a lot these days. In college, in the studio, we used to say you can't polish a turd, but you can roll it in glitter. Harkening back to your so you could do a lot of rolling in glitter these days, and I have actually personally heard that sentiment be brought up every once in a while. Not often, but I have heard it. Oh, I heard it. I listened online and it was different, If that is probably 2 in my entire history, that's probably the top end of my estimations of times that I have heard that. I do think you're not doing anybody any honesty in over polishing your online experience. If that's not consistent with your room, I would say your room is going to always technically be your priority. I mean, unless you're, I don't know, maybe it's Life Church or Saddleback or where, they have specific areas of ministry that are like Saddleback's small groups are bigger than their in-person attendance, right? Things like that, where it's like, for some reason, our online campus is just huge. It far dwarfs our in-person, at that point, it's like, yeah, we need to make sure that that's sustained. And that's where we put a little bit of we're shooting for this, we're capturing for this, and that's where the bulk of our audience is. But if that's definitely not, and that's 99.99% of churches, that's not the case, and you're putting a lot of effort or resource into making that sound and look great, but in the room, people are like literally holding their ears because they have cymbals clanging in them or feedback, or there's just out-of-tune nonsense going on. People can't clap because all of a sudden your 4 became your 3, or you know what I mean? Like it I think the source matters, and you'll hear this from everybody and their mothers in this world. The source matters more than anything else, and that I think carries through to what you're saying. If your source isn't good,
yeah,
people see it, come into church, and they go, "Oh, okay, that's not what I thought," because you spent all Monday recapturing everything with good musicians, or you farmed it out to session musicians in Nashville to overdub everything. I don't know that that's happening. I know that it's possible.
Yeah.
I'd say that's, you have a question of integrity to look at there. That's definitely an opinion, but.
And for the 99% of churches, again, the ones that are 200 people and less that are struggling to find enough volunteers to even manage the in-room experience, how much do you think they're actually losing if they simply stream the message?
I honestly don't think you're losing much of anything, to be honest. The message and a good welcome, like, I'd almost put good hosts and good pastoral on your online before I would stream your worship, because we don't do worship to bring people into the kingdom. We do the gospel to bring people into the kingdom, and that's loving people, right? Worship is something that we do to God, or we say praise and worship is praise is about God, worship is to God, things like that. That's a person to person interaction with the Lord, with the Holy Spirit. And yes, it can be inviting, but in my perspective, in all the years that I've been studying the Word, it's really the gospel of Jesus that is what convicts and changes lives. So that's what you want to get people to. I would imagine you'd want to get people there before you'd want to prioritize anything else. So
James, take that back. It's obviously the haze machine.
Oh, and the lasers.
I'm going to give my own hot take. I think now I'm just one man's opinion, but in my opinion, there are two good reasons to watch online. Number one, you're checking out a church because you just moved to town or whatever. You're trying to get a feel for that. Or, you're sick or you're on vacation and you want to catch up on what you missed. So on the first one, I do want to know what the worship is like. I want to get a feel for what the experience is, but I don't necessarily need, a great live stream every single week to experience what the worship is like, so I know what to expect when I go. On the other hand, if I miss a Sunday or I'm sick or I'm out of town or whatever, I'm not looking to catch up with the worship. I'm looking to hear the message. Does anybody disagree? Does anybody no, when I'm out of town, I really want to hear the worship?
No, I've moved a number of times in my life, and that's exactly what we've done every time we've moved is we popped online, looked around to the different churches. And yes, in that scenario, I was interested to see what worship was like. I would have been highly disappointed if it was really polished. And I walked in and I was like, that is not, but I'm me. That's a big part of my world. But, to your point, what's to say a church couldn't, to an honest degree, capture 6 songs, polish them up a little bit from the live performance. Don't try to make them something they're not. And rotate 2 of them each week for a few weeks. And therefore, you're not super concerned about whether Sister Becky sang in key this week because you're rotating one of 6 songs that you'll redo next quarter. Maybe you'll do another 6 songs next quarter. You spend a night with your team, capture them, spend a week working on them, till everybody's relatively happy, and rotate a couple songs each week. I mean, there's an option that I don't hear many churches looking at, in our world of wanting to keep up with the Bethels.
Blake, do you remember which episode I kind of had that idea and then it stuck with me? I couldn't get past it.
Toby gave a pitch that was to your point, James, you wouldn't want to make it so polished that then you show up inauthentic. And Toby, if I remember your point right, it's not that you're saying polish it really hard. It's more that the struggle to capture it well every single week is a struggle. It needs volunteers. It needs a lot of gear. It needs a lot of money. Instead, just pay for a good capture. Don't change the worship at all. Just pay for one good capture. And yeah, you almost have a trial service. I don't know how you would title this well on your website, but yeah, it's hey, if you're looking to check us out, here's a service for you. It's in the can. I like that approach still a lot.
I think I like that too. It's your best foot forward. It's if you're on a dating app, you want to put your best photos up. If you're going to list your house for sale, you want to put great photos up. It's the same to me with church. If you're going to put up a crappy live stream every week, I ain't going to come because it turns me off easily.
Well, and to do it in reverse, if you looked great, but your camera is all murky, you're going to have a bad photo. That's the same thing that's happening when we have to put out a live stream every single week, but the capture isn't good, even if the songs are good. So you don't get that date because your photo looks bad. Pay for the one good capture.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, we pay for good videos and good graphics in church, and we reuse those for a whole season.
Yeah.
We do it live. Why not migrate that idea to online? It makes total sense to me, especially for that 90 to 95% of churches that, let's be honest, they're not knocking out of the park 95% of the week. So
yeah. Sister Becky does occasionally sing off key.
Yep.
All right. So traditionally, and really we're talking since COVID for almost every church, but you have two ways to mix your live stream. You can either pull out the front of house, or you can have a separate room, isolation studio, whatever, to mix a separate live stream mix. Now we suddenly have a third option, and it wasn't invented yesterday.
Third party. Have a third party.
Yeah. You can have a remote mixing solution. So at first, this felt like absolute voodoo math. James, can you, since you're a smart person, explain to the dummies of us, meaning Blake and I.
Toby's the dummy.
Yeah. How does this actually work in layman's terms?
Well, you get one of these, right? And then you do this really quickly while you're adjusting. No. Sorry. For all of those that are listening, that was a Apple TV remote. Bad joke. Well, in the broadcast world, like the broadcast world, not necessarily the church, they have forgive me, I'm not going to remember the exact words, but it's called REMI, REMI. It's remote engineer something infrastructure, I think. And it is how they do the Olympics. It's how they do any type of large event where they have a studio, which is where all of the talent for the production is, and they have an event somewhere else. And they use the internet, and they have the engineers on remote controls. We call these digital consoles that have brains outside of them big mice. That's essentially the same thing. And the control protocols are tunneled over the internet to the brains that are on site. And that allows them to communicate in a much more tighter environment like for my use case, I have great speakers and a great studio that's tuned. I don't have to worry about being in a broom closet with headphones on. And I can monitor the mix, get the video feeds, mix it properly, and return a great result that's going to be far better than anything I could hear in your broom closet or next to your front of house console. And that's sort of in a nutshell, that's how it works. And there is a fourth option, but we'll get there. I don't want to interrupt you.
The fourth dimension.
Yeah, there is a fourth option.
Okay, so this is, and let's quickly talk about remote mixing your live experience. How do you feel about that? That's insane.
The front of house.
Yep.
Right. Okay, so this is something that has fascinated me for a long time. When I started building my rooms for mixing, the thought had occurred to me that I'm like, if I had good internet connection and like a good binaural mic, I could set a computer up, tune the PA in the room to something that I could trust, and I could get the mix to me and remote control the console, and probably, as long as I knew what the SPLs I was hitting and I had somebody to talk to, return a decent result. Now, turns out I wasn't the only one who had this idea. I forget who it was, and I forget which band it was. Huge act. The monitor engineer had a child and needed to be home right in the middle of tour. And he set this up, and he had a few computers, but he tested it from his house, and they set a Digico up at his house, and they did a remote connection, Digico to Digico. And he had the comms links and the radio and everything. And every night they had a show, he would log in. He had a tech on site that would make sure everything was talking, and he would literally do monitors, right there. And that's easy because that's not a PA. But I think it's Pooch, was it? He often would mix in footy tunnels and backstage. He would mix front of house because there just was no place on the floor. And it's the same concept. You tune the PA, and then his show file was dialed so he could trust his show file with the monitors that he's on. So in my opinion, it is absolutely doable. There is one area that's a concern. I work with a lot of churches that come from the more gospel Southern Baptist, Church of God, kind of sporadic kind of vibe. And you can have a pastor jump up at any time. And quite often there's not a stage manager communicating that pastor's grabbing his mic and jumping up. And if you're a remote engineer and you can't see those things and they're not getting called, I would say that's extremely tricky. If you're following a run sheet and the services don't change very often, they're very, typical AG, typical non-denom evangelical, then yeah, I think it's way easier. But for me, since the industry's already been doing it and we've now got companies out there that are doing it, I do think it's absolutely possible. And for the churches that they're in the middle of whoop and there's just no audio guys because they're all out in LA, Nashville, or Dallas, yeah, like that's something that you might want to look at. It's kind of a cool vibe. Now, I haven't gotten to hear a service like that. I haven't gone to a church and heard that in action, but I have heard very good very good testimonies back. A lot of churches are quite happy with that. A lot of engineers are scratching their head going, how does that work? It works. Yeah, it works. It's all about targets and having something that the PA is going to sound like this. You can hear the room, you can hear the desk mix, and you're listening on something that you trust that mimics what the PA curve is. And you're going to get within the ballpark. Like, seats in a room are going to be plus or minus 3 dB anyway, maybe more, because most PAs are terrible. So if you're mixing within that plus minus 3 dB, it's going to translate well enough that if somebody on the front row goes, hey, I think that alto over there is too loud, you can turn that alto down referencing your mix, and it will be relatively the correct adjustment. Yeah. So I'm for it.
I like it. And I've talked to a church in Ohio that is doing it. They've been doing it for about a year. I liken it to the idea of self-driving Tesla. So right now, if you have a self-driving Tesla, it feels a bit voodoo, but you're supposed to sit there at the front seat and just be ready to take over if something happens. But generally speaking, it's supposed to run on its own seamlessly. And the church in Ohio said very similar thing. And kind of to your point, they said, we don't have the talent pool of mix engineers that you do in major cities. They're in a much smaller, like more rural area. And their pastor has said, we want to prioritize the audio mix in the in-person room experience. So they have outsourced it to a remote mixing service. I think their engineer lives in Brazil. And so they usually have a volunteer standing at front of house just in case, again, something goes wrong. But they said, we have yet to have any major issues after a year of doing it. So I'm like, welp.
I mean, it's the same way that I do marketing now. I sit at my desk, but AI just kind of does it, and if it doesn't work for me, then I have to jump in.
I know. That's like, it's like me on this podcast anymore, Blake. Like, this is just AI, Toby. Nobody knows it.
Yeah. You've noticed that Toby's been nicer the past 50 episodes?
Hey, shut up, you idiot. I recently programmed the AI to be a jerk to you.
We're going to have to get that prompt fixed.
Yeah, I'm of two minds of the whole South America thing. I know the guys that started that, and to be honest with you, they're giving people in South America an opportunity they wouldn't otherwise have to have stable incomes and things like that. On the flip side, it's offshoring work out of America. It's taking work away from guys. But there's an argument against that. It's not. I mean, there's so many churches out there. Like, if you're sitting in Dallas and you're frustrated that there's a church being offshored to an engineer in Brazil, you got your tunnel vision on. Like, there's plenty of work to be had out there, and the churches that are going to be paying for whatever it is, reduced rate for something like the guys who are killer over at AudioLink, it might be reduced rate of, for at least the prices that are local to Dallas. That's because that's where that church is at. Like, I know churches that I have very good relationships with that can't hire me because they're trying to build a building, right? And my rate for every single week of doing services that's gonna slow their building down, even if it's a tiny little bit. So I honor the fact that they're trying to build a building and don't want to hire me. I don't need to go grabbing at their, coattails trying to get that extra work. It's, maybe an AudioLink is a better solution for them because it's a cheaper solution than I can be, and that's where they're at, and that's what their needs are. And I have a relationship with that pastor anyway. So maybe down the road they get their building and it's better infrastructure, and they want to change up their result, have a more direct interaction, whatever. I know that company, when they pair up an engineer with a church, I'm sorry, I'm doing a little bit of marketing for them, but I'm just trying to explain the situation.
I like the guys at AudioLink, so you can talk well with them. They're great dudes.
They're great. And they'll pair up a guy, an engineer in Brazil or South America with a church, and that will be the pairing. That church will get to know that person, right? So they're purposely trying to build relationships there. The AudioLink guys are great. I know about stuff that they've done in the community that people will not know about ever. And I like that about them, because that's, what's the Bible say about doing your acts of righteousness in secret? And, I know about those things. I've been asked not to divulge some of what they are, but like, when you know that they're out there doing stuff like that, it just, as a member of this community, it really warms my heart. Yeah. And yeah, so I can't speak highly enough of them.
Toby, are you ready to talk about some stuff that doesn't warm our heart?
Well, I have one more question before we get there, Blake.
Okay.
So James, let's just say it's going to cost you $300 to $500 a week to mix your live stream. The 99% of churches that have, 37 people watching sporadically each week, is that something that they should be investing in? Because in my brain, they're thinking, well, Gateway's doing it and Highlands is doing it. We need to be doing it. So in order to get a good quality, we're going to have to pay $300 to $500 for a remote engineer to do it every week because we don't have the volunteer. Is that a good use of funds in your estimation? Probably not.
It has to be backed by vision. It can't be backed by keeping up with the Bethels or the Gateways. For me, it's about priority. If those 30 to 70 people are worth it to your church, plus or minus, however, plus hopefully more down the road, and that's the direction that we're driving to try to get people engaged in an online community, worth it. If it's just because, there's some people watching and church down the road's doing it, there's other options. There's other avenues that are potentially cheaper, potentially far cheaper, and maybe your church has that on a regular basis, but they have a massive a conference or something, or a massive attendance at Easter and an online watch that you see it spike at Easter and Christmas. There's options out there for that too. That's the fourth option that I was going to get at. Like, there's a premium option for remote mixing where there's guys like me who can stream in all of your channels, all 64, all 128. I'm capable of doing 128 channels, run it through the DAW here with all the outboard gear and deliver something that you just can't, like most churches don't have all the outboard gear, and then return a mix back, add a machine and time compensate it for your video feed. And that's something that like the regular church wouldn't want to do on a weekly basis, but if you have a big conference annually or a big Christmas or whatever, and that's a target you're going to hit, and you're going to keep that service and you're going to replay it. You know what I mean? Like there's reasons you want to do stuff like that. There's reasons you want to invest in the talent or invest in the high end post mixing or whatever it is, just for 30 to 50 people that are, because church down the road is doing it. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been in church leadership position. So, but that's the conversation I would have at that table. I would be like, what's the real why here?
Yeah.
And let's evaluate whether or not that why fits in with the vision of our house.
Yeah. All right, Blake, let's get into it. So I just want to throw a caveat. We said Audio Link, they're good dudes. They remote mixing is their thing. I still think it's a little bit voodoo math because I don't understand it, but good dudes. I never heard a bad thing about them. There are other companies that their ads specifically say, don't trust your live stream to your volunteers. And I'm like, dude, that's just a misunderstanding of what the gospel calls us to be in the church. But we recently had a bit of a crap storm land on socials. James, I assume you're familiar with this whole thing, but for any of our listeners that aren't familiar, a gentleman, Clayton Gregory, who advertises that he works with churches and remote mixes and does all this, had a text exchange with a pastor, and clearly there was some misunderstanding at first that led to escalation from this guy and just racism and cursing and just bitterness, and oh man, it was rough.
It was extreme, and then it got public, and it's like, just what's the Bible verse? It's like, whatever you say, a little birdie will carry it to your master. Like, it just talks about not, saying
it came out. It got shared. James, give us your thoughts on that whole thing. What did you think when it came out?
It was extremely unfortunate. For a long time, I've known who that person, who Gregory, who Clayton was, and I unfortunately I knew about him from really poor interactions privately, and I've always thought that that's unfortunate, but I never imagined that it would be that far. And whenever I see somebody, including myself, I want to say this quite clearly, because we all have our struggles, and anybody who's like me, neurodivergent, that has impulse control challenges, I understand. But still, if it weren't for the people around me trying to keep me in line, it could be much, much worse. So I think I see that kind of very unfortunate. There's not a lot you can do to redeem that situation and say, who's around him? Who is he allowing to be around him? Bad company corrupts good character. It's very possible at one point his integrity and his values were much different than they had become, and life is hard. So I'm playing a little bit of the, whatever the opposite of devil's advocate is here, because at the end of the day, he claims to be a Christian. There's got to be an opportunity for forgiveness, but not necessarily without the consequences that have to be, faced. The Bible's very, very clear from Genesis to Revelation about everybody being made in God's image, that there's, not neither male nor female, neither Jew nor Greek, there's at the end of days, when we're all, in the throne room, there's going to be a multitude of every tribe, every tongue, every nation. There's no room in the body of Christ for racism. It's just not there. The Bible is very clear. It's to be called out as sin, and it should be dealt with as sin, at least in terms of the body of Christ is concerned. I had to shut down some discussions online. For those that don't know, I'm one of the admins of the Church Sound Media Tech group. I have been for many, many years. And I have to make decisions like that every once in a while, because unfortunately there were some legal grounds that were crossed, pretty severe ones. And what I didn't want to happen is I didn't want the discussions in our group to conflate or confuse or obfuscate real evidence that might be, sought after by the appropriate authorities. So I had to do that. And, I also don't often like the forums that I'm involved with to become places of just bashing, which kind of goes back to your opening point about this. It's like when you come out the gate swinging with a negative, again, I'm preaching to my own self here. When you come out the gate swinging with a negative, it's like you really are not going to catch many flies with that vinegar, right? And it goes for so many. If I want our communities to be welcoming and inviting, then my opinion is that our response to this has got to be wise and calculated. There's still room for love, but I think most of the industry responded correctly in that they were like, nope, this is a step too far, and we're going to put a boundary here, and we're going to let all the appropriate people that need to know that this is not somebody you want to be working with, at least in the present, in his present situation.
And of course, we all love a really good train wreck online too.
It was a train wreck indeed.
That's how we follow Toby socials, just watch a train wreck over and over.
And I think,
it's, go ahead.
This is a very good cautionary tale. We refer to Blake here at Church Gear as the cautionary whale, because what can happen when you eat that much white cheddar popcorn. But when you outsource your Sunday morning experience to a remote solution, again, there are great people in the space, and then there are cautionary tales, and this is a massive cautionary tale. When you bring a plumber in during the week to fix your toilets, I don't think you're necessarily concerned with their behavior, the words that they say, how they dress. But when you outsource your Sunday morning worship experience, you're playing a little bit with fire. Just saying. And this is a cautionary tale of what could go wrong.
Yeah, there's a good adage. I think it's a John Maxwell adage. It's hire slow, fire fast. I think that could apply to anybody that you're bringing into subcontract. A lot of pastors will preach against the hireling, and there's valid reasons why. I have my own opinions on that. I am a quote unquote hireling. We have our home church, and I work mostly at churches that are not technically our home church. However, every church that I work at, I prioritize their value, their whatever their message is, whether or not I 100% agree with it. My integrity is I'm going to present that as true as I possibly can to however I understand their message to be. And I'm going to make sure that I honor everything that house is putting forward as their mission and their message, right? That's how I try to carry myself for all the churches that I work with, bar none. And so there's a way to do subcontracting as a subcontractor. There's a way not to do it. And there's a way for a church to approach hirelings, and there's a way not to approach hirelings. You want to find somebody, and if it's building a relationship to a point of trust, that you know that person is going to honor what your house is trying to communicate in the message that you feel that God's put forth from your house. And whether or not that person decides to become a part of your house, that's always the goal, in my opinion. That's a great direction, and you hope that the relationship goes that way. But man, hire slow, fire fast at the very least, right? At the very core base, take some time to slow and to take some time to evaluate. And then if something starts to feel real weird, then have the conversation quick. Don't let it linger. You got great companies like AudioLink. Again, like there's plenty of testimony that you can find. And there was plenty of testimony to be found for Clayton. And I'm not faulting anybody who was on the victim side here. I'm just cautionary to the future. Go look for those testimonies. Like you're going to hire Summit, you're going to hire Skylark, you're going to hire whoever it is. You're going to go ask churches that have worked with them. How was the experience? Did you get what you were trying to achieve out of this building project or this upgrade or whatever? Were they easy to work with? Was anything difficult? Are they focused on your house and your message first and the gear second? Those types of things.
I've watched Toby hire 25 plus people, and the man is addicted to references. He loves references. So,
we've been burnt when we didn't check references.
When did we ever not?
I'll tell you off.
Okay. I remember when I made my first hire, you were like, how many references did you call? I was calling a reference at the beach.
I know. I learned the first time after hiring you, Blake, it was hire fast and fire slow.
You trusted your own reference, and that was bad.
It was.
Because you knew me personally.
I know. James, this example of this whole text exchange that got out there obviously is an extreme example, but what kind of lesson can production people in church settings take away as far as how to communicate with your pastor when maybe you're really frustrated with him?
That's the same. I'd say it's the same as how I communicate with my wife, or how any good husband would communicate with their wives. You have to sit down in a safe environment, like not approach from left field last minute. Sit down and go, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is how I'm interpreting it and how I'm feeling. Please educate my perspective here, because I'm aware that I could be misreading this and I could be wrong. Because at the beginning of my marriage, when I didn't do that, man, it led to some really difficult times. Now,
detail those out for us, James.
We were almost divorced, and it was purely over miscommunications. Like there are no moral failures other than my failure as a husband to listen to my wife. Right. And I have learned through great counselors and great mentors that it's better to shut up and say, what is it I'm not hearing? Or just ask, what is it I'm not hearing of her? Yeah. What is it I'm not hearing? And that gives a chance to go, okay, I might need to reset my perspective. Maybe I don't. Maybe my perspective is on point, right? Your perspective is always valid as your perspective. And maybe the other person is missing the mark a little bit, but at least it gives you a chance to go, hey, okay, I hear you. However, here's the reality of what's happening. And at least at that point, the other person has felt that they've been heard, and you have a mutual ground to move forward on. Most of the time you're both heard. You're both like, oh, I didn't understand that. Both parties, right? And then it's like, oh, that's not as big a deal as we thought it was. Definitely not. I'm going to log into your computer and delete all your files just because I got a decline charge. Yeah.
Toby, it's very inappropriate that James advises to settle issues with your pastor like you do with your spouse, because we follow the fight naked rule. And so I don't want to fight with my pastor naked. That's pretty weird. I don't know. Maybe it works. I don't know, but
maybe I'm sure there's some churches out there.
I mean, Toby, you're the one that taught me that in your premarital class.
Yeah, the fight gets resolved pretty quickly when you're just naked with your wife.
And it's not even because of what you think. It's because it's awkward. It's like, this is a weird encounter now.
I have a really hard time being mad at my wife when she's naked. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Yeah. Suddenly I agree. She's always right.
Yeah.
Well, if we had a fight with our pastor naked, that would be a disaster because it would also be an HR violation. So, James, can you give us a disaster story in production where everything went wrong, how you fixed it, and why it's because you started off the event streaking?
Running into a Easter service in New York, unprepared. I'm going to say unprepared, but some of it was unavoidable. Back in the day, we had Midas Pro 3, Midas Pro 6, and they came with the, if I'm not mistaken, DL471 engines that were loaded, 371 with the cards. Mm-hmm. And they were rolling on and off trucks all the time. And at some point before Easter, one of the cases was dropped. I didn't know about it. 2 of the cards, for whatever reason, died. So we rolled in on, I believe it was Friday. I don't think we did Good Friday. I think we just had rehearsals planned. Friday, I don't think we did anything on Saturday. And then Sunday we had services. Well, my console, front of house console, wouldn't boot up. And after a long amount of troubleshooting while the band was rehearsing without front of house, turns out it was the cards. I found a company over the river in New Jersey that happened to have cards. We had them trucked in, got them installed on Sunday morning, and they wouldn't fire up because, if memory serves, there was a firmware mismatch. So I had done firmware updates before, and I had always done them after service, never prior. I didn't have a choice this time. And that firmware update that was supposed to be like a few minutes, 10 minutes tops, took 2 hours, which was our entire rehearsal time. I think I got that console lit up and a show file loaded 2 minutes before our pre-roll ran, which thank God our pre-roll was 5 minutes. So technically 7 minutes before downbeat. No rehearsal, Easter Sunday, and had to go. And I can remember, like, I just stayed laser focused and I tried my best because at the time I was leading production. So I tried my best not to allow my volunteers to pick up on my frustration, even though I was very clearly frustrated and I was young. So I probably didn't do a great job. But I remember sitting down on the cases once we packed down and I was done. I was drained. And I remember Gabe Kelly came over to me and I was just like, man, I think I felt like I gave my all and it wasn't like, it wasn't a great set of services. And he goes, it was great, man. He goes, you did the best that you could do. And that's all that mattered. And every single person on our team was blessed by these services, even though we were working hard to do these services. He goes, that's all you could do was your best. Don't beat yourself up. And there's been many times in my career where that has been the resounding lesson is you just did your best, even if your best isn't enough, right? Like technically enough, practically enough. You may not have the right skills or the right resources right at your disposal. But at least you tried without beating yourself up and you kept your spirit focused on what mattered. It's always the gospel that matters. It's always the relationship that matters. It's always love that matters, and how you interact with other people. Everything else doesn't matter. I say it all the time. If it doesn't impact eternity directly, it's not worth worrying about. It just isn't. We take it in on production teams all the time as production staff. We worry about every little thing and we let it kill us and we let the cortisol levels go through the roof. But if it doesn't have a direct impact on eternity, and I'm sorry, but the left side of your PA dying right before service is not one of those things. It's not worth worrying about. Sure, debrief it on Tuesday. Call the companies to fix it on Tuesday. But while you're getting through Sunday, so people can get to meet Jesus, that's what matters. Even if it's a bullhorn on stage because your entire system is gone.
And is the rumor true that you sent a racist and profanity-laden text exchange to Midas after that?
there was probably some heated exchanges for sure. Sure.
Toby, James just actually released the name of our upcoming tech therapy podcast. Technically enough.
Technically enough. I like that. Yeah, not bad, Blake.
Well, James, remote live streaming, will it keep Sundays running? Will it not? Sometimes it will. Sometimes it'll just run you through the wall through an internet wood chipper. So tell us something that will keep Sundays running. What's some of your unique piece of advice to always keep Sundays running? You've already told us to fight naked with your pastor. So what else would you tell us?
If your morning service is breakfast, if your evening service is dinner, and doing it together as all the teams that are related. So worship and production, sometimes I've been part of Mosaic where it was also the foyer teams that were involved in, blessing each other, but doing life as part of doing church and doing that relationship, it doesn't matter what you run up against. I texted some guys in LA that we did LA together. Every Sunday was a challenge. There was some crazy thing that happened every single Sunday, but it was because we loved each other and we hung out and we just wouldn't allow those things to be what we were doing was about. It was the relationships. To this day, I still have close relationships with a lot of those guys on that team. So what keeps Sunday going is literally the fellowship. Is, in my opinion, doesn't matter how hard, doesn't matter how easy your church is, how complicated, how technical problems are. As long as you got that fellowship and that good attitude, that's what keeps Sundays going.
I like that, Toby. Well, James, thank you for joining us on the Church Gear podcast presented by House Right. Is there anything you would like to plug? Anywhere you'd like to point people towards?
Jesus. That's always the number one. But yeah, you can find me on social medias. Usually Instagram is my haunt. I post some work there. I post some tips there. I do some live stream mixing locally. I do remote. Of both types. I do the premium and I do the little normal remote stuff. And I do post mixing for albums. I do stereo and Atmos. I do all the things that make loud noises.
All the things that make loud noises. Yeah. That could be a tagline there, James.
Yep. That's what your body does too, Blake.
Oh gosh, especially as regular as I've been. Well, thank you, James. Appreciate you joining us.
It's been an honor again, guys. Blessings.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope to see you back next week for more absurd stories, tech takeaways, and overall buffoonery here at the Church Gear Studios.
All right, Blake, did you notice my new shacket thing?
Yeah, and you didn't get me one. How rude.
No, I went to my friends at House Right, and they have a whole swag closet. How come we don't have a swag closet, Blake?
Because you don't give me any budget. But if I did have some budget, you know what I would use it for?
What would you use it for, Blake?
I'd send it to do ads for the Church Gear podcast, but we don't have any money, so share this episode with a friend.
Yeah, you're our ads.